2. Welcome back to the Sexy Business Podcast. I am Spooky Dangerous. Joined with me always is Lewd Neko, awaiting headphones.
Hello.
And it's time to talk about Patreon.
Yay!
Yay. So you might have seen, because I posted a whole bunch of it on Twitter and I tried to be super transparent about what was going on, is the THM Studios Patreon was taken down for 6 days. Which is brutal. That is a long time to be down. And I thought that this episode, this platform, would be a good place to kind of go through everything that happened and kind of explain what's going on, how we managed to recover from this, and what we're doing going forward. First thing, I wake up in the morning to an email, classic Australian time zone thing, where they've sent me this notice at like 6 a.m. or something. Yeah. So not in my time zone. And then I get up at 9 or whatever and I see the email. And the email says, hello, sir / madam, to whom it may concern us the most. Your Patreon account has been suspended. And the reason why is we had titties in the thumbnail. In our banner up above the thing. It had titties in it, and I'm like, okay, that's a very genuine complaint. I am happy to fix this immediately. And so, like, the 3 hours it took me to see the email was the entire time that it took for this problem to be rectified. I swapped out the banner, we got a new banner straight away, and I replied. I said, hey, look, this has been solved, no big problem. It's actually kind of a good suggestion because now we have information in the banner image, which is probably better than what we had before, which is just key art for one of the 3 games that we do. Look, cool, thanks. Everything should be resolved. Can you please lift the suspension? And I didn't hear back from them for 5 days. And then on the 6th day was when the suspension was lifted. So I'm sitting there this entire time. I wrote them 5 emails throughout the duration of the thing, being like, look, I've already solved the problem. Can you tell me what's going on? Is there something else that I haven't done that you haven't told me? What am I doing? I'm watching my subscribers walk away. I'm watching the number tick down every day. I can't even, when you're suspended, I can't interact with anyone on the Patreon. I can't comment on you have like a community tab, which is just like a chat room kind of a thing. I can't comment on posts. I can't post new things. I can't do anything. And I had outstanding messages to me that were like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, I can't tell you. I can't even reply. You're just gone, basically. Upside, this happened on the 3rd of this month. And so, yeah, 3rd of July, right? And I withdraw all of the money on the 2nd, because that's when all the payments have finished clearing and stuff. So we weren't removed any money that was existed and owing. Like, we could still get everything for this month. But I'm like, okay, I've sent out the thing, and it's like, why aren't they replying? It's like, oh, it's 4th of July, it's a national holiday. Okay, cool, that's all right. I understand if it's plus 24 hours or whatever. But it's probably not a big deal. And then, like, a whole weekend goes past as well. I'm like, this is actually kind of unprofessional at this point. Because I replied within 3 hours. And 9 a.m. in Australian time is still within business hours for America.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was overwhelmingly punished for a small first. Like, we've had no warnings on Patreon before. This isn't YouTube. We've had no trouble with anything going on there. And we were incredibly severely punished for it. And so, yeah, look, I wanted to go through a bunch of what's going on with Patreon, how we use it, what we're trying to deal with. Because I know a lot of other creators have had similar problems. Where they've been outright banned. I think unintentionally we're a bit safe because whenever I post content, I don't actually ever say that it's porn. I always just say, like, look, this is the new game update. When I say what's new in it, I don't actually explicitly explain because I don't want to spoil the whole thing. And most of the time, the image that I post that goes with it is not R-rated because Steam says that you can't have the monthly update image with it be R-rated. You're not supposed to, and I haven't. So normally I use that same image for like Twitter posting and for Patreon. And so for the most part, it's pretty safe. So I was kind of shocked. Also, I put JOI. That's right. The only time I've ever had any issue, I tried to upload a JOI video, and before it lets you say post, it goes, "Hey, we've detected adult words in your post. Are you sure you want to post this?" I'm like, "Oh no, sorry, this was definitely a typo." Let me
Yeah,
see what
because
else he said.
they're really strict about like, because I know it's like back in the day, some people used to just basically straight up have like OnlyFans on Patreon, and so they had to be more strict about that. And then they
Yeah,
got
well,
really strict about
Bill
like,
Delphine's
and
main income was Patreon before OnlyFans existed.
yeah. And then they got really strict about like NSFW audios. I think those are
Huh.
technically like a little sus or at least a little bit bannable. I think it depends on like what words you use and stuff like that. Because I know a lot of like ASMR creators have gotten in trouble with Patreon like previously for having too sexy of
That's
ASMR
crazy.
videos.
Imagine the moderating team for that. They're like, well, look, I'm rock hard, so they just cannot keep doing this.
Yeah, we just have like a whole like jury, and if they get hard from this, then you get banned.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been affecting a lot of people. I've seen like I can't think of a list at the moment, but I follow like tons of game devs, hentai artists, and stuff like that. And I've seen a couple of them either get temporary bans or permanent bans because they have the whole rule about non-consent now, which really just depends on if they detect that in your art or not. I think it's been affecting hentai artists more than game devs because I
Makes
imagine
sense.
most Patreon, whatever their moderation team, they entire porn game just to figure out whether or not there's like non-consent in it, but they can quickly look at a hentai image and be like, oh, they're not enthusiastically consenting the whole time. So
Yeah, and I mean, you could argue that a lot of the content in just the feminization or femdom niche is non-consensual in a way because it's like without implicitly saying hello, yes, I would like you to turn me into a woman, this was what I wanted this whole time, you at no point put these thoughts into my head, is hard to write into a story in a sexy way. I mean, we've obviously tried to do that. The whole point of Shackles of Elswin is the main character and the best friend are selected by the witch because she recognizes that in them, and that's why they're
mhm.
taken. It's not implicitly said. It's just kind of, hint. Well, it is kind of implicitly said. She says like, "I kind
I
of
mean,
knew you were
I
like this from the
recognize
start."
that, especially in like the Evan character or Evangeline.
Yeah,
I definitely saw that like coding of like, oh no, she's really into this, she's happy about this.
yeah. It's the I have to be hyper masked to live up to everybody's expectations, and my best friend who is a little soft, I have to be a good example for them so that they can be hyper masked and cool like me. And then as soon as they get transported to their new place, where they're like, "You could actually just be a girl. You don't actually have to do any of that stuff here," and they're like, "Oh, what if trade deal? What if I was sexy and I stopped being an asshole?" Is kind of the idea, and that's how we've handled consent. Because there's plenty of times in the game specifically where they ask you, like, "Look, is it me? Is it this that you want? Otherwise, here is what will happen. Here is what your option is." Right?
Mhm.
So I'm a very pro consent person when it comes to the writing. My intention was never to have non-consent or consensual non-consent content in there, or I would have made it more obvious that that was the case. Right? I'm just trying to do
Yeah.
transformation type stuff, but I see a lot of other artists that are like, yeah, look, we're now on Subscribestar because Patreon no longer caters to us. Because I think one of them was a transformations artist, but it was like anthro, and people getting turned into a cow or getting turned
Yeah.
into something like that, and it's like
I think
knowing
all
what the
anthro
final,
stuff is banned. It's
yeah,
because of the
or the
like
dog
it's
cock rule,
technically bestiality.
yeah,
Like if it's specifically if like your furry character has like a horse cock or a canine cock, that is considered bestiality. If they have a human penis, I think it's technically still okay, but
yeah.
it's like one of those really weird like it's up to Patreon's judgment essentially.
You know the Family Guy meme of the okay not okay with the like skin color chart? It's that, but it's like cock shapes. Like,
Yeah. No knots allowed.
yeah. No, the one that I was thinking of was like turning people into cows, like big milky type cows. And it's like I can understand how you could say that this would never be consensual because the person could never have truly a concept of what is happening, like what the finished product. I don't know how you would describe it. What the final transformation would be, right? It's like the hello, yes, I would like to buy you flowers. And you're like, cool, yes, I shall receive flowers, and then you get flowers. Like that's like on the face of exactly what something is. But it's like I'm going to turn you into a cow, and you're like, that sounds hot. And then you're experiencing it, and you're like, oh, I don't have hands anymore. This is kind of shit. I'm actually really uncomfortable all the time, or I can no longer speak English now. All I can say is moo, so I can no longer tell you that I'm not enjoying this, and you can turn me back. Like I can understand the argument there, but I also don't think that it could ever parallel a problem that it's encouraging in real life. Like when people are like, we don't want content that features children because we don't want to encourage pedophilia. I'm like, okay, I understand because there's a real world parallel to a child
Yeah.
and, and a child in a game. I'm not going to go and find a cow and be like, this was once a hot girl and I'm very interested in that scenario.
Yeah, to me, it's just I really do feel like Patreon is eventually going to just be like, actually, fuck it, no more NSFW, because it feels like every year they have like a new rule where they're like, okay, we're gonna no, this isn't allowed anymore, this one thing, and then we're gonna add another thing and another thing and another thing until eventually it's like, unless both of these characters are showing their ID to the camera while they
Hello, yes, my
actively
full
talk
legal
about like,
name. Yeah.
yeah, I'm so excited to have sex, and I am also over 18, and I am enthusiastically consenting to this.
And I
I think
signed
because
a
I think
waiver.
especially,
Yeah.
yeah, because especially right now, there's a lot of um concern, I guess, especially in the American political sphere about porn. There's a really large pushback right now against porn, like getting it just outright banned, and we've seen that
Yeah.
in like, Pornhub is has to be ID verified in a lot of different states. Same thing with like some campsites. I actually had a viewer of mine who so I upload a lot of my videos to ManyVids because it's been like a really easy platform for me to get my VODs up to, and they messaged me and they were like, hey, I live in one of the states that has this ID verification. I don't feel comfortable giving my ID to ManyVids, understandably. So I can't watch your VODs anymore. And I was like, oh shit.
Interesting.
um so yeah, I'm very concerned, especially with us going into like a political season in America. Because a lot of these are American companies, and unfortunately, what America
Yeah.
decides just sort of ends up dictating what everybody else does, as we've seen with all of these NSFW bans. It's always Mastercard who's getting into even like
Yeah.
Japanese companies now and being like, you can't do this. You're not allowed to do this kind of porn or whatever. So I'm legitimately quite concerned about what's going to happen in like the next year. And I would definitely say for anyone involved in NSFW right now, game devs, porn creators, cam models, whatever you are, um, don't have all your eggs in one basket right now. If right now you are only on Patreon or you are only on OnlyFans or Pornhub or any of those other sites, start diversifying now, especially to non-American companies. Because I don't know what's gonna happen a year from now. I would like to believe that we'll all be fine, um, but I'm not too sure at this point.
Yeah, it is kind of tough. I do want to needle in on this because I saw a post recently from another big NSFW creator who said specifically in the text of Project 2025 what they are trying to enact if Trump becomes president is to
Mm-hmm.
jail people that make porn and make porn illegal, which is a bit insane. So look, if you have the voting power in the country, now is the time to make sure that you can still beat your dick. Otherwise, it's mandatory chastity for everyone across the country.
Yeah, it's like you won't even be able to watch porn, even if you're not masturbating to it. You can't look at the naughty images anymore.
Exactly. So that is obviously something we have to be worried about as well. But yeah, diversifying where your income comes from is really good. So for us, we were banned for 6 days, and at in that time, because Patreon is a monthly payment, we didn't miss anything. Like there wasn't anything else supposed to come in and we didn't get. But the people that were on as a membership were like, oh, this must be permanent and they're never coming back. I'm going to cancel. And so we lost a lot of subscribers. But knowing that hit was coming, the Steam summer sale was on and doing amazing. So instead of us normally getting the bump, that can help us work on more ambitious things and make more cool content or get like a big update. We are now just still at regular operating speed, right? Like we're not super struggling, but we're not having a great time, and just stressed. Obviously, always stressed. Um, but listening to what other creators are doing in the field, because in the NSFW field, I'm very often seeing a lot of people very publicly talking about these issues, kind of a sisterhood type deal where it's like, look, this is coming. You know, I just had the MasterCard ban. I'm moving to this place. Or we had a few other platforms where it was like, this is a thing that's now a problem. This is now the alternative I'm using, you know, because they're both trying to get their fan base as customers, right, to come over to this thing. But the more creators that follow them over to this new platform strengthens the platform and legitimizes it as not like some random Russian pay site like Boosty, where it's like I've only ever heard of one person ever using it, and that's because it's like the only company that's happy to send money through the tariffs or whatever. But we're also now on Subscribestar, which is looking to be a pretty good alternative for most things.
Yeah.
So
I know it's worked for some artists because I have some like hardcore kink artists who I know have to use that because like Patreon just absolutely would not allow anything that they do. Or like even some like OnlyFans people. I've seen some models on there who that's where they can upload their more like you know, hardcore kinky content because they don't have as many restrictions. Though the biggest problem is obviously Subscribestar does not have the same pull that Patreon has. Unfortunately, like, you know, a lot of people just don't want to make another account. You know, it's like the more steps you add to somebody giving you money is just the more likelihood that the customer isn't going to commit.
It is hard, yeah. One of the other things I'm
Yeah.
thinking is like, if you're following a community of people, and I think furries is a great example, but trans women content creators as well, you know that these are going to be the first people targeted and removed from a place. So wherever they're going and telling you they're going to be, that's where you want to be in advance, because that's where everyone's going to end up in the end. So it's like, if these furry people are being removed from Patreon because of the dog cock rule, then it's like, okay, where are they going to go? Because I know that that's where everyone is going to end up. And kind of the vibe that I'm getting is that it's Subscribestar for the moment, which is fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's where I've seen most people going. So I would definitely recommend, if you haven't made a Subscribestar account, I would just make one now. Because you know, there's a very good likelihood that your favorite hentai artist or game dev or whatever it is gonna have to move there in like the next year. Because like I said, I see this as a sort of trend where Patreon has just been getting stricter and stricter and stricter because PayPal and MasterCard keep saying like, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that. And like I said, it's eventually they're gonna just get to a point where they're just like, stop it, no more NSFW, because unfortunately PayPal has so much fucking influence. Which again, it makes me nervous for what's going to happen to Steam. People have been talking about that because, for those of you who don't know, adult content is not allowed in Steam Germany in particular because they have the ID verification, and Steam doesn't want to do that. They don't want to spend the money to, you know, handle ID verification for all of Germany. So if eventually the United States says, you know, even if they don't outright ban porn, if they say all states have to do ID verification to view porn on the internet, there's a pretty good likelihood Steam's just going to say, yeah, no more porn. Bye. Because it's such a huge fucking liability to ask a private company, hey, you need to be in charge of IDs for all of your customers.
This whole new system for every single one of your users. Because even if Steam just says, okay, it's banned in just the States, that's still like 90% of the user base, which is the same as it just not existing.
Yeah, I feel like VPNs are going to go off so much.
I wonder if that's going to be the next big thing. Because...
And then VPNs are going to get banned. They're gonna be like, oh, that's you're escaping the law.
Yeah, in theory, we're always just trying to be one step ahead of whatever the next big problem is going to be, right? And I know this has already been a little bit of a political episode, but as an Australian looking at American politics, it's so much easier to avoid the insane propaganda machine. And one party always does this thing where they just make the world slightly worse than the other party can fix. And so when the other party comes back into power and they fix stuff, it's still going to be slightly worse than it has been historically. And it's been following this downwards trend for some time. And it's fully possible that it's only going to get worse. And whether or not that's going to impact our livelihoods, the fact that the climate of the American political sphere is affecting me, an Australian, in such a huge way is insane. It should have nothing to do with me. They should not have this much jurisdiction over any other country, let alone ours, where we, I don't know, best friends or whatever. And I feel like I'm under attack on the day, on the daily by whatever corporate machinations are happening. So look, it's rough to work in this industry. You have to worry a lot about keeping yourself protected. I mean, the same has been for sex work and a lot of that kind of stuff for eons.
Yeah.
Where it's like, look, everyone wants porn. That's been evident for some time. Everyone wants that kind of sexual fantasy fulfilled or that bone of fun time. And there's also always someone that will rise to power from removing that thing that everybody wants, which is crazy, but it's like not a new thing. Conservatism has been like that for a long time, and repressing things that people want and using that to control them is not a new thing, and it's gonna suck. And we kind of are cool little rebels for fighting against the man and continuing to make cool content.
Fapping is now a political act.
Yeah, it's an act of rebellion because we live in the age of the hustle, right? Where if you're not working 24 hours a day, you're technically wage theft. You're stealing from your employer if you're not working all 24 hours. So stopping to beat your meat is actually an act of rebellion. And I kind of feel the same way, right? Because with how radically anti-trans a lot of things are becoming, creating pro-trans content, which is kind of basically what food is, and feminization, is really just pro-trans content at the end of the day. Because, and if you see anything from the Twitter feed, I'm always like, yes, yes, you should be doing this. Yes, you should be, dressing up and putting on the makeup and making yourself pretty and all this kind of stuff, and being really encouraging of people. And I've had a lot of people in the DMs that have been asking for advice as to where to get things or what kind of steps I should be going
The real
through,
liberal
right?
agenda, make everyone into pretty girls.
Right? Why? If you could choose between being an ugly boy and a pretty girl, why would you ever choose ugly boy? I'm saying. So it should be no shock that THM is insanely pro-trans, and sitting in that sphere and seeing how much our sisters over in the US are under attack and being killed and like legally murderable and stuff like this, then it's like, well, we need to be as supportive and wholesome and helpful and heartwarming as we can be. And that's why some of these things we have to be worried about. Even though near me it's fine. Like there's nothing, I'm under no attack. I'm under no concern for my well-being. I have lots of local friends who are trans. We don't have any issues like that here compared to over the States, where it is a frenzy in comparison.
Yeah. And at this point, I'm like I don't talk about politics much on my streams, like ever. I don't even see this as a conservative versus like liberal or Republican versus Democrat thing anymore. Like I don't really care what you truly identify as. I think at this point, American politics have gotten so far like polarized and fucked up. It's like I'm very like in the between in a lot of ways. There's like certain things that I'm like more conservative on, certain things I'm more liberal on, but like if you are watching this podcast, there's a good chance you like porn. You like freedom of expression, you like freedom of sexuality and freedom of choice and identity and things like that. And like, pay attention to who you're voting for, this coming season, even if it's not just like on the presidential level, but even on the local level, on your state government, things like that, because all of that is leading to this. If you're in one of those states that right now has the Pornhub bans and the Chatterbait bans and all those things that aren't letting you legally like view the porn you want to without showing your ID to a random company. Say something, call your representatives, vote for the people who are against this, because you shouldn't have to give your private information to a random fucking private company to store forever. Like, I have to do that as, a cam girl. I have to give my ID to a lot of companies, which is admittedly a little scary sometimes. I think about like, oh shit, if one day this gets leaked, I'm fucked. And if hackers and people who want that kind of information
Yeah,
know
desperately
that, oh,
TikToks you.
yeah, like, hey, now Pornhub has the IDs of potentially millions of Americans. That just makes it a huge fucking target.
Hmm. Yeah, I worry about that kind of stuff as well. We also looked at uploading this podcast to Pornhub and cannot, because I cannot be registered as an official model because my ID type is not accepted, which is insane. Like, I already kind of have this problem because I don't have a driver's license. I have like a proof of age card or whatever, just like literally a state issued ID card. But that's never an option. The options are only passport and driver's license. And I'm sorry, bitch, I'm too poor to travel that far. But I shouldn't be not allowed to watch porn because I don't have enough money to fly on a plane. That seems insane. I don't as it stands, does that make me radical left? But I think that's fucking crazy. And eventually that's what's going to come down for everything. It's like, well, unless if you have this thing, unless if we've tightened the knot on you so that you backflip through all of our hoops and we can really identify you as a person, and not some imposter who's just desperate to watch pornography in this country, then you'll be allowed to click on the lewd website, which is probably censored anyway or whatever.
Yeah, because Pornhub still has like so many restrictions on like what kind of stuff you're allowed to upload. Like, I get tons of my VODs taken down because they are very, very, very particular about like what kinds of gaming content. Like, I was really surprised Foodadom World and like Shackles of Elswin was allowed to go up there, because I thought they were gonna get mad about like the like dubious consent and like, oh, like, matriarchy and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think FTW is way worse at dubious consent because it's kind of like the whole plotline is that you are being oppressed, which is kind of hard to enthusiastically consent
In
when
the
your rights
sexy
are being
way.
taken away. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's difficult, and there isn't a written guideline for what's good and what's not good. And when it
Oh
comes
yeah,
to
that's the worst
that kind of
part.
stuff,
Is like when they take stuff down, it's always like some really vague ruling of like, "Oh, you
yeah,
violated our TOS." And I'm like, "Can you tell me where?" And they're like, "No, we
yeah,
can't. We won't, because fuck you."
yeah. And that was what I was worried with the Patreon, right? It was like, okay, we've made our first infraction, and now they know we exist. Oops. And
Yeah.
then they go, okay, so the banner had titties in it. You fix that, but because we now know that you exist, we've gone through and we've looked at the content or whatever, and now we fully
Yeah.
understand what we're dealing with. Like that's
That's
kind of
like
what was going through my head, right?
that's basically what happened to my X videos. We're like, I don't know what video eventually like ticked them off, but that's like the eventually they were like, "Oh, we're taking down just all of your fucking videos."
Yeah,
I was like, "Shit."
yeah. So look, it is getting harder and harder to create the content that you know and love. Even if you think what we make is mid, even if you think what we make is shithouse, we are jumping through all of these hoops to make it happen. And the people that you do know and love have to jump through the same hoops. And the people that could become the people that make your new favorite content now also have to get through all these barriers just to get started, right? It's getting harder and harder every year to get into an industry like this. And the more restrictions, the more problems we have to deal with, the harder it is going to be to catch up for people that are just starting. And so it's really important to get out there and support your favorite creators. It doesn't specifically have to be financially, even just making sure that you're following everywhere, making sure that you're sharing stuff when cool updates come out or whatever. Being a
Engagement.
fan. Yeah, it's no longer cringe to like porn. It's actually super base. My favorite Steam review is the Giga Chad Assy art, where he's like, "Yes, I play NSFW games on main," and it's like that's what you need to be. You need to be a fucking hero for the art that you like, because art is the only cool thing we have left. They've taken everything else away. And after that incredibly cheerful episode, I swear to God, we will have more fun, sexy nonsense in other episodes. We don't intend to always come and be such a downer, but the job that we do is really hard, and this kind of stuff does happen a lot, and we have to be fighting the good fight, all right? But we do a lot of other stuff, like let's play is the wrong word. We play the game separately and then come and talk about it like a book club. We talk a lot about our last episode, for example. We had a look at Steam and what some of the games were that we thought were kind of cool that won Steam. We've gone through and done interviews with other creators in the field. Our current best episode is actually an interview with the creators of FDW, which, you know, all that kind of stuff we love bringing to you, so you can actually see that we are real people making this content. We are enjoying what we're doing as a job, and we're bringing it to you so that you can enjoy this cool fantasy fulfillment, and you can, you know, escape and enjoy the weird and wonderful magical worlds of NSFW porn games, because that's what we enjoy. That's the dream, right?
Yeah.
But make sure you're clued in. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. That's why we're here on YouTube and not Pornhub, because the analytics and the metrics help us a lot. So remember, if you want to make the happy kitty and make sure that she has all the head packs, you have to click the buttons. Because if you don't, we get the sad Neko. And sad Neko is very depressing.
I'm so sad the Patreon keeps banning all my favorite porn.
All right, and so to solve this problem, you have to be radically loud and excited about all of your favorite art. And hopefully next time we'll be seeing you once again on the Sexy Business Podcast.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was depressing.